Thalia, Gaddock Teague, one Scrib Ranger, and one Elspeth Knight Errant.
Nice. So Caleb leads on Darkslick Shores, and it looks like he said go.
All right, well, Evan with his start, turn 1 Mother of Runes off of Savannah.
Yep, Caleb Durward, just a ton of 1-ofs, a ton of 2-ofs. I'm still trying to process this deck. The backbone of it, Force of Wills, Tezzerets. He has 6 2-mana producing artifacts, Talismans and Signets, Damnation's Thirst for Knowledge, Solemn Simulacrum, Wormcoil Engine. Deck I've seen before, but it hasn't really become popular yet.
Right. So right now, Caleb passing the turn back on turn 2. His deck is definitely a control style deck. Really, we'll have no problem just making land drops here until Evan threatens to do something. Kasali Primate will come down for Evan.
Really, really good card against Caleb, but what Evan doesn't know is that Caleb is playing a couple Damnation, which is just a huge card. It's a card that's really hard to play around, especially out of the main deck, and I doubt he will.
Evan opts to not attack with his Mother of Runes, to leave it back on defense.
Yep, definitely a safe play against the blue-black deck. You know, he doesn't know what Caleb's playing yet.
Yep, Caleb's third dual land passes the turn back. So Evan having 2 Swords to Plowshares and a Green Sun Zenith, he only has the ability to commit 1 more threat to the board. This one, while it's a very resilient pair of creatures, actually only 3 damage a turn, so not the fastest of clocks.
No, and Caleb can just really wait back.
Evan's gonna Wasteland. In response, Caleb will Thirst for Knowledge. Getting 3 cards. There's a Karn Liberated in his hand. He's in discard Thopter Foundry.
Exactly. Does not need that one until later in the game. No Academy Runes, actually. That's a little surprising.
Does he have any way to get the artifacts back from his yard?
I would have thought he did, but I don't see it any way.
So right now, yep. So Thopter, right now, no Thopter. Yep. I'm not sure he doesn't look like he has Sword of the Meek in the main.
Oh, interesting. I just assumed he did. It's just
no, but it's just Thopter Foundry.
Thopter Foundry for value. Pretty cool. Caleb just really has a lot of lands here, really developing his mana base. I think I see another Thirst in his hand, Jace the Mind Sculptor. So if he can just stabilize, he'll be in great shape.
Right. Evan Wagstaff hits Caleb down to 14, cracks a fetch land. Cracks a fetch land, 3 up. May go for a Green Sun Zenith.
And I like Caleb's Darkslick Shores in this deck. Just a really great land. It doesn't come into play untapped for Tezzeret, Jace, or Damnation, but still, it's a pain-free dual land that doesn't cost you 2 life like, say, a Watery Grave would.
And you will Green Sun Zenith on 2, so back into the deck. Caleb will probably not allow that. In response, he's going to Thirst for Knowledge.
Also, of course, important to note, the Darkslick Shores, immune to Choke, which is a pretty big card. Most Maverick decks have about 2 in their sideboard, and Evan Wagstaff, yeah, he does. He has 2. But Caleb will look to play around that in the post-sideboard games.
Discarding Talisman.
And now, since he didn't find a Damnation, it looks like he is going to cast Force of Will on this Green Sun.
Yeah, Caleb with a lot of cards. Really, the life total is his main resource to work with. So he's going to pitch Jace to Force of Will.
Yep, Jace not that effective with a Mother of Runes in play.
Right, the Kasai Primate would be able to counter swing and just kill the Jace. Jace would essentially turn into a life gain spell.
Yep. So you can see those 2 2-mana lands in Caleb's hand. Ancient Tomb, City of Traders. You go with his Tezzeret, his Karn, and another Thirst for Knowledge. So no artifacts in play yet to make that Tezzeret really shine, but he could still +1 to go find one if he wanted to. If I'm Caleb, I might just be casting Thirst for Knowledge to set up for Karn Liberated next turn. Some other runes can't give protection from that. Give protection from no color.
Right. So Caleb's playing here, yeah, like he said, those 2 lands. So he has could have Karn in 2 turns. So we'll go with Ancient Tomb this turn, pass.
Yep, he'll just sit on the Thirst for Knowledge, maybe make Evan second guess some of his plays with all that mana open.
Right.
Because if you're Evan, you don't really know what's coming from this blue-black deck.
There is a Thalia that Evan drew. It would actually hold Caleb off for a turn, but Evan may not know that.
Right. It seems to Evan as though Caleb has all the mana in the world. He has 5. He could have cast any Planeswalker in his deck, or Damnation. if you're Evan, you just think Caleb's flooded or just has a lot of really awkward combo pieces in his hand, something like that.
6-5 Pride Mage knocks Caleb down to 10. Evan's going to pass.
Definitely the safe play from Evan. He wants to make sure he knows what's up with Caleb's deck before he really commits all of his resources.
He's going to get punished for it here, though.
Yeah, he is. This is not going to be pretty.
Caleb discards 2 fetch lands. Those are artist modded polluted deltas, it looks like.
Yeah, those look pretty nice. And here he goes. City, 7. Karn.
Drop down to 8 and cast Karn Liberated.
And Karn will, of course, immediately go to 3. Well, I imagine it'll go to 3. Not sure about
Caleb
that.
has to protect his own life total here.
Right. I think he just has to get rid of that Pride Mage. He's probably thinking about what instance the Maverick deck could have, what possible ways, you know, basically, is there any reason to take out the Mother Runes instead of the Pride Mage, I think.
Right. The Swords to Plowshares, not very good in the matchup.
No.
Caleb doesn't have too much to do with them. So we have Karn's going to take Kasali Pride Mage. So Evan down to just really one creature, the Mother Runes. Mother Runes, Thalia, pair of swords, and a land.
And for those of you asking, Caleb's wrist braces, we did just confirm, from too much limited play, too much manual shuffling of his deck, really just magic-related injury, can befall the most prominent magicians. If you're Evan here, I just think you have to dump all your creatures. If he has something like a Damnation he hasn't, I don't think you're going to win anyway. I don't think playing conservatively is really going to do that much here.
No, not particularly. Evan will attack Karn down to 2. The problem is Karn has a +4 ability. And down comes Thalia and another Mother of Runes.
So now if Caleb has a Damnation, it'll really lock it up. Even
Caleb,
something like a Ratchet Bomb would be great.
Caleb has drawn a Worm Coil Engine.
Wow.
So really just the heavy hitters from recent standard sets.
Oh, and the swords goes under.
Yeah. Karn should get Karn back up to 6, grabs his swords.
I have to imagine he'll be playing the Worm Coil here.
He's probably going to get rid of City of Traders. He wants to avoid tapping Ancient Tomb.
Yeah, he has a few options open to him. He has Tezzeret, he has Relic of Progenitus, but none of these. Oh, okay. No. Alt U, undo.
Alright, Caleb deciding here on the play. Ancient Tomb will bring Caleb down to 6. Using that to cast Relic of Progenitus.
Interesting.
5 mana. Now, and he will cast Tezzeret, Agent of Bolus. I believe he's making the relic into a 5/5.
Okay, so he just wants to have a blocker here, apparently.
Yeah.
Maybe trying to bait out the last card in Evan's hand. Maybe thinking it could be another Swords, as it is.
Yeah, Evan, the swords, unfortunately, that life gain is very relevant from swords.
And there it is. Caleb
up to 11.
5.
Yeah. Caleb and his army of planeswalkers.
This will let Evan kill the Tezzeret, but that said, Caleb has another one in hand.
Not going at Karn that turn.
Yeah, that's pretty weird. I don't see the purpose of having 2 Mother of Runes untapped.
Yeah, 1 definitely makes sense. So Caleb will get the last card from Evan, which is a land.
Karn up to 10.
City of Traders, 2 floating, making 6 mana for Worm Coil Engine.
And that is a board right there.
Yeah.
This looks like the modern deck I played. Urzatron into 6 and 7 drops, while Evan is playing 1 and 2 drops.
Muzao's GT for Evan. Not going to be enough against a Worm Coil Engine.
No, Karn will just probably -3 and take it out.
But what's really helped Caleb here is the fact that Mother of Runes, Caleb's deck is largely colorless.
Yeah. Mother of Runes completely irrelevant, just a Mons Goblin Raiders.
Right.
Here it comes, in for 6, crashing in, bringing life totals 13 to 17 in favor of Caleb. And 17, that's probably out of reach for the green-white deck.
Yeah, 17. Well, especially because the threat still hasn't been dealt with. Caleb's still with the full grip.
Yeah, I'm looking at this Maverick deck, and I can't see a single card that'll really help Evan out here. They're all just pretty low-impact creatures.
Trinket Mage comes down from Caleb. It's going to find
Engineered Explosives.
So Caleb's Trinket Mage package can find Engineered Explosives, Relic of Progenitus, and Chalice of the Void.
Now, interesting question.
Along with Seed of the Synod, Vault of Whispers.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, interesting question about Engineered. The Thalia makes it cost 1 more. Now, if you announce Engineered Explosives X equals 0, you have to pay 1 more. If that 1 is paid with a blue or a black, will it get 1 Sunburst counter?
It will get 1 Sunburst counter, yes.
That's a nice little trick. Lets you get around Thalia.
Yeah. Makes it harder to actually play Engineered Explosives on 0 with a Thalia in play.
Yeah, it does.
Caleb Durward wins the first game.
Yeah, comfortably. He didn't even cast a spell that impacted the board until
Karn
4, turn 5, and still took that down.
While Maverick is a very disruptive green-white deck, it's not actually the fastest green-white deck, which we really saw there as, Caleb, when he was able to ignore Evan's disruption, was able to erase it simply with Karn.
Exactly. The green-white creatures are not really impressive, with the exception of Knight of the Reliquary or perhaps Scavenging Ooze in a few matchups. It's really just they don't do that much. Evan would have needed to land an Elspeth that game.
Right. So what we'll see out of Evan is he'll probably see Path to Exiles possibly get boarded in. There's a lot of big creatures in Caleb's deck, and Evan would prefer not to. Lands are much nicer than life.
Right. Even though he is playing 7 drops, you can't give your opponent 6 life when you're playing this green aggro deck.
Right. Outside that, he has 2 Oblivion Rings, which may also see play. Rather than playing things like Mother Runes to protect his cards, he may try to remove Caleb's threats.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he boards in the chokes. He saw 3 Underground Seas from Caleb, but the rest were City of Traders, were Ancient Tombs, were Dark Slick Shores, so...
Right, he may be tempted to go for the chokes.
I think I would.
To put chokes in? Maybe. I still feel like Caleb will be able to play around them pretty easily. A lot of his cards, he has Seed of the Synod, Dark Slick Shores. I'm not sure that choke will really have the desired effect.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it'll be at its strongest here, but still, Evan just has quite a few weak cards in the matchup. Like, Mother of Runes is effectively a blank. It can get past Baleful Strix, and that's about it. It can prevent a Jace bounce, I suppose. Those are the 2 most useful abilities. Bajuka Bog, not very good. Spike Feeder, no good. Tormod's Crypt, no good. Yeah, that's probably going to be just about it. He could board in Life from the Loam to go with his Choke Engine if he really wanted to try and Wasteland lock Caleb, but I don't think that's the right way to go about fighting this matchup. I think the longer the game goes, the more favored Caleb is, for sure.
Absolutely.
Now, looking at Caleb's sideboard, let's see what we have here. He has Dread of Night. Now, if you're not familiar, it's a 1 black mana enchantment that says white creatures get -1/-1, and that should come in. Although, if Caleb thinks that Evan will board out the Mother of Runes, maybe not.
It still hits Thalia, it still hits Kasali Pride Mage, it still hits, I'll put very loose in quotes, Knight of the Reliquary.
Yeah, he'll definitely bring that one in. He'll bring in Dread of Night, he'll bring in the 2 Perishes, he'll bring in the 1 Dark Blast, he'll bring in the 1 Doomblade. Not sure about the Engineered Plagues, though.
Engineered Plague, I mean, he has the Parish and Dread of Night, I think, see play. I'm not sure about the Engineered Plague. There's a lot of different creature types in Evan's deck, and -1/-1, not enough to actually kill most of the creatures. I would say those stay in the board.
Yeah, I think so, too. That's more for the Goblins matchup, for the Merfolk matchup, for the Elves matchup. And while you can name Elf here, get the Noble Hierarch. That's
actually a human.
Oh, what am I thinking of?
I know, it's one of those things. Yes, I mean, it's similar to a lot of elves. It has a very elfy ability, but it's actually a human.
So Caleb Durward, what he might take out of his deck, maybe Jace the Mind Sculptor. I mean, I know that seems pretty crazy, but Jace is really the secondary Planeswalker in his deck. He's playing 4 Tezzeret, 3 Jace. So clearly Tezzeret, the more key piece. So we might see him trim on his Planeswalkers a little bit. We'll probably see him take out the Karn Liberated. Even though it was a house in that game, it's a little slow against the green-white aggro deck. Interesting. Caleb with main deck Go for the Throat in his removal suite. He has Go for the Throat, he has Damnation, he has Ratchet Bombs, he has Engineered Explosives. So kind of a diverse removal package. A lot that you don't usually see, especially Ratchet Bomb.
Yeah, so, I mean, a lot of it is I think he has to maintain a high enough artifact count for his Tezzeret. So, I mean, there's a lot of enough quality removal spells. With cards like, I mean, Ratchet Bomb is probably not a non-ideal removal spell, but it's something that he can play. So, even so, right now, his artifact count is 1 Explosives, 2 Ratchet Bombs, 6 Signets, 1 Thopter Foundry, a Relic of Progenitus, and a Chalice of the Void. That's only 12 artifacts. So I suppose in the main deck, he ends up adding another 8. So he has 20 artifacts, which guarantees pretty much never to miss with Tezzeret.
Right. Now, also pretty interesting to note, Ratchet Bomb is an answer to Choke. Even though Choke, as we said, probably isn't going to be a big deal, if Caleb draws the part of his deck that's mostly islands and underground seas, it can be.
Yeah, so we see a turn 1, Savannah, fetch into Savannah and into Dryad Arbor from Evan Wagstaff.
And Ratchet Bomb, does it say non-land or does it say creature? Creature enchantment artifact. I believe it's non-land.
Yep, I believe non-land as well. And that's the new art for Dryad Arbor from the Realms, where it looks an awful lot like a forest.
Oh, wow. It's interesting. I haven't actually seen one in play yet. I've seen a picture of one, but...
A little confusing, actually, from my point of view.
Yeah, I don't like that it has the green, or the big tree in the middle there. I think that's just really deceiving.
I would agree. All right. Well, Evan with a turn 1 Accelerant. I'll pass it to Caleb. He has an engineered turn 1 Ancient Tomb, shocking himself to 18. He's going to put down a Cursed Totem.
So
activated abilities of creatures cannot be played.
Right.
Exactly. And that will include mana abilities, so that will effectively Stone Rain the Dryad Arbor. Yeah,
that's a one of in Caleb Durward's sideboard, and that is a great card right here. What a nice mize for Caleb. Just turn 2, Stone Rain you. Neuter Knight of the Reliquary, neuter Kasali Pride Mage, Noble Hierarch, Mother of Runes. There's most creatures in the Maverick deck.
Right, so now Evan's going to have to rely on the power and toughness of his creatures to get through. All right, Evan Wagstaff down to 18, using the Horizon Canopy to cast Thalia.
And swings in for 1.
Swings for 1. Caleb drops to 17.
And Caleb does have a Damnation in his hand, so as long as he can get to that crucial 5 mana, Evan will be in trouble.
Polluted Delta. And Caleb with a... Unfortunately, his artifact removal spell is Kasali Pride Mage, which will not be of much help here.
Right.
His Cursed Totem, stops the Pride Mage from activating. Alright, 2 mana. Okay, Evans drops to 17. He's going to make the Kasali Pride Mage. So we'll allow... And he's going to go... Okay, realizing he can't tap there. Dryad Arbor not allowed to tap for mana. So I think he was anticipating being able to cast something else.
Right. And yep, now he moves that up to his creatures. He won't try that again. Comes in for 3.
Being 3 both ways.
Yep. Caleb drops to 15.
Another Ancient Tomb. Remember, so Caleb needs a second black source. And then he will end 5 lands, and when he does, he'll be able to cast Damnation. Instead, he has another Ancient Tomb. Caleb, his lone life total getting a tad lower than he'd like it to be.
Right, 2 Ancient Tombs.
He'll pass back.
Kind of an awkward draw. He would way prefer one of those to be City of Traders. At the end of this turn, he's going to cast Thirst for Knowledge to go in search of that second black mana.
Right. So Evan Wagstaff, I think, has to be really careful here, and maybe not continue to commit to the board. Let's see. He deals 5. So if you choose, and Caleb's essentially at 3 less. It's unlikely that Caleb will not use a tomb, and he'll just going to crack the fetch land. So Caleb's kind of at 7 right now. 7 may want to commit enough to the board that next 7, if Caleb does not find the card he wants, is lethal.
Yeah, I think that's smart. I think playing 1 more 2-power creature is definitely reasonable.
Yeah, but after that, I would steer clear of more committing.
Yeah, I wouldn't play 2. So it looks like they're having a little dispute about the life totals right now. I think think they forgot maybe a Dryad Arbor Peck, something like that. Yeah, okay, Caleb Durward at 14, not 15. We have that corrected for you. We did miss a Dryad Arbor attack.
Okay. Caleb kind of virtually at 6.
Yep. 5 from Evan's creatures and 3 from his own lands.
Okay, so 5 drops Caleb to 9. Evan has to decide how much. He's going to pass the turn. He's going to commit nothing else. Caleb on end step, deciding for the play.
And he has to thirst for knowledge here.
Yeah,
he has to find
it
that
is
black
interesting.
source.
He may draw. No, he's going to draw because now he doesn't have a lethal attack facing him next turn.
I
Hoping
see.
to naturally draw the black source.
Yeah, and these Ancient Tombs really doing a number on him. There are only 3 in the deck.
Right.
Ancient Tomb, usually the number 1 land these decks want, but at the same time, against a deck like Green-White Aggro, like Maverick, they don't quite do it.
Caleb down to 8 life on the fetch line crack, getting an Underground Sea. And he's going to, for himself, getting himself down to 4 to cast Thirst for Knowledge. This is floating a mana because he has to do that to go through the Thalia and New Open Sea.
Right. Wow. There's the scoop right there. So Caleb, despite that awesome start of turn 1 Curse Totem, can't really put together any more business.
His own life total became a liability.
Both players having to laugh at how the mana base and the vanilla 2/2s for 2 or 2/1s for 2.
Right.
Get him in.
Pikers just ruled the day.
Yeah. Exactly. Evan Wagstaff played a Mons Goblin Raiders. He then played a Goblin Piker. He then played a Bear.
Old school Magic players would be very happy. Yeah. Decks like this have won Pro Tours.
Right. So Caleb gonna hope for a little better draw. He would have preferred a Talisman or a Signet rather than a Curse Totem that game.
Right. He had a Damnation in his opening hand, was never able to find the black mana to use it.
Right, now, the good news for Caleb is that he hasn't shown his opponent Damnation yet. And if he hasn't cast it in 2 games, Evan is going to be a little less likely to play around it. He still has to suspect some form of mass removal, but it's unclear what he'll play around.
$10 draft for 12 is ready to go.
Evan looks like he's pretty happy to just leave his sideboard as is. Caleb making a few switches. Looks like he has something like 3 cards pulled out. Not sure which ones he's deciding on the play versus on the draw. Not sure if that's why, or he just realized he maybe sideboarded wrong.
Right. I mean, I don't think Caleb has too many different sideboard options. I don't know if his deck totally changes on play-draw sideboarding.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe he decided to side in the Pithing Needle. Maybe he didn't have it originally, something like that. Maybe he's setting out Curse Totem, deciding it doesn't do enough.
Right.
I'm not sure.
And this is a matchup, I think, in general, that Caleb has to be pretty happy with. Caleb playing a slower control deck with a lot of heavy creature removal against a creature deck. Maverick really kind of a metagame deck, I think, in the format designed to prey upon really like aggro control decks as opposed to where things like pure control or pure combo tend to be a little harder for it.
Right. When you're playing 1/1s for 1 and 2/1s for 2, any combo deck is pretty much going to outrace you.
Right.
And any control deck is just going to laugh at your creatures as they develop their game plan. It really does amaze me that Maverick continues to do well tournament after tournament. Because on paper, it just looks so weak.
Always very skeptical of it, but then you watch it play and it lives up to its hype.
Yeah, it does. Turn 1 Mother of Runes is no joke for a real lot of decks in the format. And turn 1 Noble Hierarch into turn 2 Knight of the Reliquary also. Super good. So here we go. The players have presented. Evan just with the friendly cut. Caleb gives his opponent's deck a shuffle, and they'll be off. On the play, quickly sends it back.
And Evan follows suit. So both players will be on 6s.
How aggressively do you think the player should mulligan in this matchup?
Well, I mean, I think in Legacy is generally an aggressive mulliganing format. I don't know if this is anything different, but I would agree, would say mulliganing pretty quickly. You need to have some games can be decided in the first 3 turns, so you really need to make sure your opening hand has something that promotes your game plan in those turns. I rarely want to be on a draw to make my deck function.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. Whenever we feature a Caleb Durward deck nowadays, it seems like it's just chock full of 1-ofs, 2-ofs, crazy unconventional choices that not a lot of other players are going to make. Like, who in Legacy plays Thopter Foundry without Sword of the Meek?
Yeah, Thopter Foundry without Sword of the Meek. It is definitely a little interesting in the format. It gives him because he has all these Thirst for Knowledges. It's a fairly low investment choice. He can discard it pretty easily. It does give him utility for his signets in the late game and a little bit of life gain. So Thopter Foundry is a solid enough card that I think it's acceptable here, but it certainly would not be an auto-include.
Right. Caleb on 5. Wow.
And Evan as well.
So our first match of Legacy,
First match,
and we
yeah.
see 2
Almost.
mulls to 5 here.
Who can train wreck the least?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, double mulls to 5 often do come down to that, where it's, both players will be keeping their 5s, but whichever one draws out of it first, oftentimes gets the win.
Right. It's pretty interesting. A Sacred Cow of blue decks, Brainstorm, not present in Caleb Durward's deck, just not what he wants to be doing at all. Not many of his lands produce blue, and he only has 3 fetch lands.
Right.
Most people, if you told them that you were going to play a Legacy control deck without Brainstorm in it, a blue Legacy control deck without Brainstorm in it, they would laugh at you.
Right. I mean, I think it's because he has these Ancient Tombs and City of Traders in his deck that actually, the strength of Brainstorm comes behind your lands because you have, an island plus fetch land. It's very good. Caleb probably just doesn't think that situation comes up enough to actually get the value he wants out of Brainstorm.
Right. But that also lets him play lands like Ancient Tomb, like City of Traders.
Both players have kept. Caleb opens on Polluted Delta, passes back to Evan, who's also on a fetch land, not cracking. Caleb with another fetch land. Evan, I believe his second land is Wasteland. Caleb's going to crack both, go to 18.
Yep, we should either see Island Swamp or 2 Undergrounds here. Looks like he's going with Island Swamp, signifying probably a pretty land-light hand.
Yep. Possibly making a Signet.
I think I saw one.
Well, that's going to be scary for Evan. If Caleb lands an immediate Tezzeret, that should get Caleb very far ahead.
Yeah, Tezzeret versus an empty board, well, any Planeswalker versus an empty board is pretty powerful.
Right. Evan, if he draws, he's drawn Thalia. I think he's going to have to make Thalia. Alright, so he's going to crack fetch land, grabbing Savannah. I expect to see a Thalia come down.
It's interesting. I saw the Sylvan Safekeeper while he was shuffling. I'm a little surprised to still see that one in his deck.
Yeah, not much of Caleb's removal is targeted. In fact, Caleb doesn't play particularly that much removal. It's just a few sweepers, and he really hopes to trump the aggroes as opposed to removing them.
Right, exactly. He has 1 go for the throw and 1 Dark Blast after board, but that's about it.
So the Thalia comes down. Of note, Evan Wagstaff does not have another land. He doesn't particularly need one, but so far he's on 2. And Caleb has a Thirst for Knowledge in hand. I don't believe he has a 4th land. This Thalia really could be doing some work. Caleb does have the option of Engineered Explosivesing on 2 here for all 3 of his lands.
Yep, that will kill his own Talisman, though, so he's just gonna...
Oh, he does have Ancient Tomb, my mistake. So Caleb shocking himself down to 16, paying for a Thirst for Knowledge.
Yep, he'll do this during the main phase in case he draws something he wants to play.
Right, at 1 mana, I'm not sure what that would be that plays through Thalia.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
or he has his Tezzeret. That's got to be one of his main. That's got to be a high priority for him to land, and we'll discard engineered explosives.
Right, not going to be very useful this game.
Caleb has to make sure he doesn't hurt himself too much with Ancient Tomb here. Life management is one of the most important things that he has to watch out for. So Evan, his other 2-drop is Noble Kasali Pride Mage, but he can't make that off Wasteland, so he's instead going to drop Noble Hierarch, swing Thalia in for 3. Like I said, with no other land drops, that'll probably be him passing the turn. He's debating whether or not to waste the Ancient Tomb. He's going to go ahead and do it.
Probably the right play.
Definitely the right play. He has a Noble Hierarch here, and he has to just... Caleb now drawing Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Wow.
Having nothing really that he can do at the moment.
Yep, he can just...
He's going to play...
Dread of Night.
Dread of Night.
That'll kill Thalia.
That'll kill Thalia. Caleb, with no other lands, though, he does have a Tezzeret and a Jace in his hand. One more land will be backbreaking.
Dread of Night, Tempest uncommon. Long just ignored. I think it was by like Nick Spagnolo at the Invitational.
Right.
A few Invitationals ago. This would have been in
There's a big player.
Baltimore.
Ancient Tomb is the draw for Caleb, I believe. There's a Demir Signet, one of the two. Kasali Pride Mage can swing for 4 next turn. Yeah, it's Ancient Tomb. And Caleb will shock himself to 11 to make the Signet, and then Signet Jace. Probably. Yep. Signet Jace on summon. Yeah, I would think.
That'll be super powerful. Bounce the Kasali Pride Mage. Just really tie up Evan's mana. You might see a Tezzeret though.
Yep, Tezzeret, Agent of Bolus comes down. And he will plus the ability, looking at the top 5. Finding Wormcoil Engine. And
no big
with
deal.
the mana to cast Wormcoil
Just
Engine
a
next
Wormcoil.
turn.
Even if that gets Swords to Plowshares, Caleb still gains 6 life.
And Evan never finding his 3rd land. Like I said, the so too common these multi-5s, whichever hand train wrecks the least ends up winning. I think we're going to see that in action again.
Yeah.
Kasali Pride Mage attacks Tezzeret. Should attack Tezzeret down to 1.
Yeah,
with
with
1/1 with 2 Exalteds.
There we go.
And Evan Wagstaff, if he was could have played this Noble... Yeah, now that's awkward. The post-combat Noble Hierarch could have killed the Tezzeret. That's a play that really is rough. This Wormcoil Engine probably makes the play not matter, though.
Right, well, the Kasali Pride Mage...
And he plays Mother Runes into Blanket of Night.
Yep, probably should have held that in case the Pride Mage blew up the Dread of Night at some point.
And the bigger problem is the Wormcoil Engine.
Right.
Okay? Evan has no answers to it in his hand.
Oh, that card, borderline unbeatable for a Maverick deck. It has to have a Maze of Ith or a Swords to Plowshares ASAP.
And so it's a Maze of Ith and then a Swords to Plowshares usually.
Right. Oh, and Caleb draws a City of Traders, so he doesn't even have to take 2 to play this Wormcoil. But he will anyway.
He's going to go with Jace the Mind. Okay, Wormcoil instead of Jace. Alright. Wormcoil and Demir Signet. And Tezzeret is going to make Demir Signet a 5/5. Getting rid of the Tezzeret, very good move. Tezzeret, it's better to hedge yourself against the Swords to Plowshares. For example, the Swords to Plowshares that Evan just drew.
Oh, wow. Great draw by Evan, getting himself back in this game, making up for the lands he didn't draw before.
He can Swords, and then he can Pride Mage the Pride Mage, so he's going to go Swords the Wormcoil, puts Caleb up to 15. Will likely Pride Mage. It's attacking... blowing up the... I don't see what's both...
I think one attacked and one attacked.
Okay, so Caleb Durward... Oh yeah, doing that with the Exalted on the stack, so Caleb drops down to 12.
Yep, Caleb on 12, but Evan
Caleb
Wagstaff...
on 12, but Caleb has a Jace.
Yeah.
That's going to really... Well, do what Jace does. Be amazing.
Exactly, and Caleb with that die on 5, he wants to make sure no Exalted creatures come down.
Well, if he unsummons Noble Hierarch, the unfortunate part is that then his Jace will die.
Right, exactly. He can't unsummon, he can't brainstorm for fear of another Exalted creature.
He's not out of the woods yet. Noble Hierarch doing its job. And a land draw for Evan Wagstaff. Evan can attack with a Noble Hierarch and then drop a Knight of the Reliquary, and I think he's still in this game.
He is. Jace gets to brainstorm next turn, but if Caleb whiffs on his next 4 draw phases, or his next 4 draws...
That's the ironic part of Jace, is that you have to start your sentence, well, if Caleb whiffs on his next 4 draws... Alright, Knight of the Reliquary made by Evan Wagstaff.
Go for the throw drawn by Caleb Durward. That will definitely take out the attacker, or maybe the knight. We'll see. And there's the Brainstorm.
Yep. Jace entering into awesome mode.
Yeah, it's so difficult to lose a legacy game where you untap with Jace the Mind Sculptor. Borderline impossible. Once Caleb untaps with that card, he's probably about 90% to win here.
Tapping 4 mana, Damnation.
Boom.
And that should really seal the game for Caleb.
Forest Savannah versus Jace. 8 mana, Dread of Night, and a Grip.
There's a Scrib Ranger in Evan's hand, but unfortunately that can't... I mean, while it is an answer to Jace, it's not an answer to Jace.
It's not an answer to Jace.
Jace has far too many cards. Evan's going to end step, shock himself to Thirst for Knowledge. Which helps him clear away the top of his deck, discarding Sullen Simulacrum, and that'll just refresh the top for Jace. He's gonna play Scrib Ranger right now, but it's fine, it has Splash.
Yeah, exactly. While Caleb is tapped out, he figures his next best hope this game is to attack for 1 with that Scrib Ranger.
Alright, on a 10-turn clock.
10-turn clock, yeah. Jace will Brainstorm. There's another Worm Coil. There's a Dark Blast. There's another Solemn. This game is all over but the crown.
I really like, so Caleb did get the better start, but I really like how he hung on to his lead during this game, especially early on when by sacrificing his own Tezzeret just for a value 5/5. I think that's one of those, I really like that kind of play. It's this kind of strong play that is not readily apparent. You know, it's really hard just to get rid of your own Planeswalker for just like to value play, kill your own Planeswalker. But Caleb recognized the situation and followed through on it.
Yeah, now if he did +1, his Planeswalker would have died for really not much effect.
Right, Wormcoil Engine, Baleful Strix. He's going to dredge Dark Blast off the draw for Strix. Milling 3, refreshing top of his library. And this is all but over.
Kazali Pride
See how
Mage.
much Evan plays this out.
You can play a Thalia here. Bin it from the Dread of Night. Speed this game up a little bit. There
and
we
Evan
go.
concedes the game. So Caleb Durward with Blue-Black Tezzeret moves up to 3-0, defeating Evan Wagstaff 2-1.
And now if you're just joining us, I'm Zach Call, and he's Matthias Hunt, and we